Hello, my name is Courtney Homan, and today I'm going to be working with an ELL student, a sixth grade student, working in an ELA class, working on laughs.6.rl.1.3. So I am going to read the standard. The standard is describe how a particular story or drama's plot unfolds in a series of episodes, as well as how the characters respond to change as the plot moves towards a resolution. So that standard is pretty cumbersome, especially for a student that is just beginning their journey to learning a second language. So the way we're going to begin acquiring the knowledge necessary to master that standard is to just work on character traits. Through our ability to master character traits, then eventually we'll be able to build on that lesson, and the student will be able to learn how the character changes, and then eventually how the plot causes a character to change. But in order to understand how a character changes, we have to understand how they are in the first place, and also how the author depicts that character. So we will be working one-on-one, just myself and the student, because the rest of the class has already finished this assignment. So the very first thing, the hook, if you will, that the student and I are going to be doing together is just working on character traits and what that means. So the student will be given an iPad as an accommodation. So she can use Google Translate, and if she doesn't understand what I'm saying. Likewise, I will also use my phone or an iPad to access Google Translate so that she can start to understand what I'm saying. So the first thing that we're going to work on is using character traits and adjectives to describe ourselves. So she will have her reading notebook. I'm just going to have her use her regular reading notebook. We're going to jot down the standard in both English and Spanish. Just for time's sake, that's something I would provide the student, so she could see it in English and Spanish. And then after that, we're gonna work on character traits. So for our hook, I'm not using any sort of formal graphic organizer just yet. So the first thing I'm going to do on my whiteboard, I'm just gonna use a mini whiteboard, or also even possibly my small group table, just write directly on the small group table with an expo marker. I would just draw like a little stick figure with hair, and I would start adding some character traits for myself. So I would use Google Translate to explain to the student that I'm starting to come up with some things, some ways to describe myself. So I would use an expo marker to label that little stick figure that I drew. And then from there, I would have the student do the same thing. So I would give her an expo marker and give her the chance to kind of come up with her own character traits for herself. So it's fine if she starts by doing them in Spanish and then translating them over to English, but I just want to make sure that she includes both things. So for fun, we're gonna do it on the whiteboard or kidney table, just the small group table, just to get the student acclimated to me and kind of having a little bit of fun. And then I'm going to have her copy that into her notebook underneath the standard where we have the standard. So that is approximately going to be 10 minutes. It's not going to be a large part of the session today, but again, this is a small group pullout session, so it's not designed to take the entire class period. Then the next thing that we're gonna do is watch a short video. It's called The Present. It actually is in English, but it has Spanish subtitles, so that's gonna help her correlate between the English and the Spanish to make sure that she understands what she's watching, but also so she can start to see and hear the English words that go along with that match the Spanish words, I guess you could say. So the short story is about a little boy, and when we first are introduced to the little boy, it's only about a 4-minute video, but when we're first introduced to the little boy, he is on the couch playing video games, watching TVs, not really interested in leaving the house. His mom is kind of worried about him, that it's a nice sunny day and he's not out with other kids. So she brings him a present, and thus the name of the story, The Present. So when he opens the box, he realizes it's a puppy, and at first he is super excited about it. He is all about this puppy. But then he realizes that the puppy has a disability. The puppy is missing one of his paws. And therefore, when he runs, when he tries to play fetch, he's tripping and falling. And the boy kind of gets discouraged and is like, oh, I don't want this. This puppy's damaged. And he doesn't say that, but we can infer that based on his body language and based on his facial expressions. So, what we see though as the audience is that the puppy just continues to try. Even though he's falling, even though he's tripping, he just gets back on up and keeps running until eventually he kind of gets the hang of running just on 3 legs, which can be pretty difficult, but he starts to play fetch and he doesn't let his disability stop him. So the little boy at the end finally is like, okay, we can go outside, and takes the ball and brings the puppy outside to play fetch. At that point, when we actually get the panoramic view of the little boy, we realize that he too has a disability. So the mom kind of purchased the puppy. The idea, the theme of it is for the little boy to learn that even though he does have a disability, he's still capable of doing all the same things and living a normal life and being happy. But he is just going to have to work a little bit harder to accomplish those things. So it's a very charming story. The first time that we watch it, I would just watch it all the way through from start to finish, not stopping the video. Then the second time that we watch it, I would stop it periodically throughout the video so that we could have a conversation about the character traits that the little boy that is presenting, because the narrator really does not explain very much what's happening. We just have to be the audience and we have to understand what's happening based on facial expressions and the way the puppy and the little boy and the mom all interact with each other. So once I have paused the video throughout and we've kind of had a little bit of a discussion, most of it will probably be through Google Translate. It just depends how comfortable the student feels and how much she understands me. Then we will actually use a concrete graphic organizer. So the graphic organizer that we are going to use is this one. I will show. Okay, so you can see that this is a person, and then there are 4 different quadrants where the student can fill out character traits. So in each of the quadrants, I am going to ask the student to come up with 2 internal and 2 external character traits. So before we start actually using the vocabulary of internal and external, I'm just going to say 2 that are appearance and 2 that are based on personality. So we're going to use the story to try to come up with character traits. I'm going to ask the student to do it first, to think of some of the adjectives that she could use to describe the little boy. We're going to just do a brainstorming session. We're going to do a brain dump where she just says everything she thinks about him and I'm going to write it down. If she's having trouble going back and forth between Spanish and English, that's absolutely fine. Again, she can use Google Translate. So that might take us a little bit of time. This portion, so the video portion is designated to take approximately 10 minutes and maybe a little bit less. And then this portion will take an additional 10 minutes. So after we've done a brain dump, I'm gonna have the student choose the 4 things that she really thinks are the biggest, most important character traits, or just 4 that she really likes. And we're going to use those 4. We're going to put them in the graphic organizer, and then she's going to describe the boy. She's going to describe all of those character traits in the lines below. So again, she's just using her own words. It's not something where she's quoting or doing anything along those lines. She's just using the information that she's gleaned from the video to explain the character traits of the little boy. So once we've done that, The exit ticket of that lesson is I'm going to give her a little note card, and I want her to write the difference between physical and internal and external character traits. So the difference between your personality versus your appearance. Then we're going to spend a lot more time on the second day actually going into internal versus external character traits. So on the second day, we are going to start by looking at our short story. So now we're going to start investigating the same short story that the rest of the classes read, which is Raymond's Run. But before we do that, we are going to start with another graphic organizer. So let me just pull it up. Okay. All right. So this is the character trait graphic organizer. So it's hard to read, but on the top, I have provided the definition of internal and the definition of external character traits, along with a little picture that coincides with the two. And then as we read Raymond's Run, we're just going to start with the very first page together. But as we read that story, she has this graphic organizer where she can fill out the character trait, the definition of whatever that character trait is, and then draw her own picture. And then inevitably our goal is going to be for her to be able to pull the text evidence in order to find or back up, as you will, the text evidence to back up the character trait that she found for that character. So in order for us to be successful with the second lesson that we are doing, the student will have homework from the previous night. So I will have provided the student the story in both English and Spanish. For the homework, I just gave her the first 3 pages so that she could read it in both English and Spanish. So every day we're going to kind of build on that and add a few more pages because it is about 15 pages. So it's a little bit of a longer story. When we get to class, we're going to spend a little bit of time and we're working together on summarizing those 3 pages so that I'm making sure that she read them and that also that she comprehended what she read. Then the mini lesson that we're going to do is going to be based on the main character, Squeaky. Squeaky is a little girl that lives in Brooklyn. She is very tough, very confident. She is an amazing athlete. She's a wonderful runner. And throughout the story, she encounters a lot of people who are not authentic. And so one of the things that we consistently see throughout the story is that Squeaky talks a lot about how important it is for her to be honest, for her to be authentic. She tells everybody how much effort and work goes into being a great runner. She's not the kind of person that just is modest or pretends like it's all accidental or just natural ability. She is very upfront about that, whereas all of the other children that she runs into really kind of struggle with that and like to play it off like it's just magical that they're good at things, when in reality we find out through the text that they actually do a lot of their own practicing. So some of the character traits that we want to glean from the story are that Squeaky's very confident, that she's a hard worker, that she's very honest, authentic, and then also, of course, that she's a wonderful athlete. So our hook for the lesson is to look at this picture. It's just a picture of a young girl who is winning a race. It's a little bit difficult to see, but you also see the girl behind her who is trying really hard to win, but not. So we're going to use that picture to kind of talk a little bit about how we think that character feels, what that character had to do in order to win that race, and also the point of view of the person that's coming in second. So this is where we're starting to take character traits and we're starting to learn how these character traits shape the plot. Because the fact that Squeaky is very confident, that she's a very hard worker, gets us to the point of realizing that because she's a very confident hard worker, she does end up winning the race. And because she is a very kind person, that we find out that she also is going to work with her younger brother at the end of the story so that he can win his race as well. So that's kind of where the story leaves off. So what we are going to do is then go back to that original graphic organizer that I showed, and we're going to start coming up with some character traits for Squeaky. So just based on the first 3 pages, we learn a whole lot about Squeaky. So the graphic organizer is going to take us a little bit of time because we're going to write the word, we're going to write the definition of the word, we're going to draw a picture to try to remember the word, and then together we might also come up with a physical movement to help solidify the definition of that word. And then finally, we're going to go back into the text and we're going to work on pulling that text evidence. So all in all, this lesson will probably take approximately 30 to 40 minutes as well. And it's just something that we're going to work on in small group every single day for the duration of the week, because we're just going to continue to read the story. The student is going to continue to have the homework of reading 2 to 3 pages every night in both English and Spanish, and coming to school the next day ready to talk about the story, because I don't want to spend a large portion of our time on reading the story together. I want to be able to actually work on the specific standard. Fluency, of course, is very important. So as we move throughout the year, I do want to work on fluency and her ability to read out loud, but we're not quite to that point yet. So for now, we're going to work on the standard at hand. So that is it for our lesson plan, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye.